So, hi everyone, welcome back to the Hollie Ramsee Show. Joining me this week is a multifaceted individual who is now an LAPD officer. Her name is Renetia James. Nice to have you, Renetia. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. Can you tell us exactly who is Renetia and what is it that you do?
So my name is Renetia, of course. I was born and raised in Carson. I went to school in San Diego, graduated with a bachelor's degree from San Diego State in forensic anthropology.
Nice.
I'm currently a police officer.
Nice. Now, me and you have crossed paths from track and field.
Correct.
A lot of people would say we were rivals, being that I ran for Hollie and you ran for Sarah High School. So can you tell us, how has being an athlete shaped or helped your career now, or has it?
Well, I would say, like, personality-wise, I think only athletes will understand what I mean, like, personality-wise. We're super open. We're super, like, not just competitive, but, like, when I saw you, it doesn't matter if we're rivals, I was still your friend.
Exactly.
It didn't matter what type of background you came from, because everyone from track came from different backgrounds. So it's like, you learned how to interact with people. So, like, I use that on the job because I work in South LA, so I get people with different personalities, different backgrounds. So it just makes me, like, very adaptable to situations. So
That's good. And I know we come across a lot of personalities in track and field. You can see it just from practice and then competing. It's just, you know, you never know who you come across. But we always have had a cool relationship where competitive on the track, but off the track,
it's totally different.
Going to parties, things like
it's like once you walk past that gate, it was like, okay, we're not friends right now.
Exactly.
But once you get past the finish line, it's like, okay, girl, what we doing?
Exactly.
So,
and I know you come across a lot of different types of individuals just being an officer. And what type of officer are you? Like what?
So right now, I'm a traffic investigator. So basically, whenever a bad traffic accident happens, I go and I basically investigate, try to figure out what exactly happened.
Wow.
So
how were you assigned that, or is that something you wanted to do?
So I don't know if it's from track stems it, but like I'm always intrigued to find out more.
Yeah.
So like, you know how you start off with the 400 and then you're like, oh, you know, let me try the 800 out. So it's kind of like that. So I just wanted to find like my niche, like, okay, I already know how to do patrol, so let me go try and do something else, because with our department we can do so many things on one department. So I'm like, okay, let me try traffic out.
Yeah. So. Awesome. Okay, now what made you decide to become or join the LAPD?
Well, first I would say become a police officer first, because you get so many people, like, okay, so we went to college and you like, people be like, F the police, blah, 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 but it's like, okay, you saying that, but you don't want to be part of the change of that. So instead of talking about the problem, why don't you be a part of the change? So,
wow. So that is there anyone else in your family that is an officer, or did that kind of spark your interest, or it was just like, I want to make a change, so this is the steps I want to take?
Well, I grew up around police officers because my aunt's a police officer and my cousin's a police officer as well. And then I have multiple friends that are police officers as well.
I can attest to the fact that being a black female in any industry can be complicated or difficult. What has your experience been like as a black female officer? Community and
on the job. Okay. Community, it's more like they only see the uniform. Yes, I'm a female black officer, but I'm just an officer.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's all they see. They see the skin tone. They know that I'm black, but they don't consider me a black person when I am in uniform. So like, I'm not sure because LAP has different divisions everywhere, but I work in the South LA end of our department, and I get a lot of people that say like, oh, you're a sellout, you only consider other officers, you probably hide for them, do that and the other. And it's like, no, like, if you took the time out to get to know me for who I am, like, you wouldn't even think like, oh, that's
all these perceptions.
Yeah, you wouldn't get this perception. Like, literally, I come to work, put the uniform on, I'm still the same person. It's just I have this uniform on, that's
This is my job.
Yeah. So like, so many times in public, like, I had these conversations with people and they're like, oh, what do you do for a living? And they're like, I'm like, oh, I'm an officer. And they're like, I wouldn't even expect me to be an officer. So I'm like, I like that because it's like, I like it. It's like, oh, okay, you don't have that little face that's like, okay, she's an officer, so she's probably like an asshole. So, but then it's kind of like, okay, what is an officer supposed to look like?
Exactly.
So that's the perception that I get a lot. But then for other officers, it's kind of like I have to be strong all the time.
Yeah.
Because I'm a female, so we're kind of considered soft.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm in a male-dominant field, so it's kind of like I have to put up that guard. It's kind of
you think they don't take you seriously sometimes?
I wouldn't say take me seriously. It's more like they feel I might need their assistance because I'm not able to control whatever comes to me because I'm not a male or something like that. That's like the give and take of this job.
Yeah.
You have to kind of like prove yourself in every circumstance, every aspect. You have to prove yourself to everybody, basically.
Yeah. And with other fellow officers, do you think that is it harder for you because you're black? Or do you think that they treat you equally? Do you think it's a fair department?
I would say it's a fair department. I just think that certain people grow up a certain way.
Exactly.
And so they see people a certain way.
That makes sense.
And so I feel like that's with everything. I feel like when you go to school, that's like that. If you work in accounting, if you work at the mall, if you work as a police officer, everyone has different ways that they grew up.
Exactly.
And so I feel like that's where it stems from. It's like, okay, if they grew up looking at people a certain way, that's how they're going to go about it their whole life. Yeah. So I feel like that's probably the problem.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, so what do you plan to accomplish within the field, given the history of police brutality within the black and brown community specifically?
So right now I'm actually a mentor with this program called Operation Progress.
Okay.
So basically I have 2 young ladies that I get to mentor. So right now they're in the 5th grade. So I'll be with them till they're in 12th grade. And hopefully
that's a good amount of time.
So it's kind of like I'm an only child, so I get like siblings kind of, you know? And then it's another aspect because it's like they know I'm an officer, so they get to see that I'm just a female just like they are. I was a little girl just like they were. I went to school, I did this, I did that, and they can do the same thing or better. So it allows me to have personal where I can have now with little sisters, and then it's like I get to mentor these young ladies into women, which is wonderful.
Did you always want to be an officer, or is this something that just struck you in college?
Actually, I went to school to be a coroner.
Oh wow!
So it's actually like
different.
It's different. So when people know me, they know I'm like super like bubbly. I'm super like outgoing. So it's like coroner was not for the personality. So I was like, what can I do to apply my degree and then be around people because I like talking to people. So then I was like, oh God, I can do all that. I can not look at dead bodies, but like I can go to crime scenes and figure out the different stuff. So you know what I'm saying? So I can talk to people. So it's like you wear so many hats as a police officer. So it's like 2 of those hats that I wanted, I can wear as being a police officer. Yeah. So.
And I think that is amazing that you decided to be a mentor, just because my sister's 14 years old. She's about to go into high school. And I think it's good that they see a black woman doing something that people may not think she can do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that is amazing. And I feel like it's just something we need now. Yeah. So how do you feel about some of the actions some officers have made during the time of peaceful protests?
I feel like every officer, every person should be accountable for their actions. Unfortunately, that's not how society works.
Yeah.
It's like one bad apple spoils it for all the apples. So I feel like every person, whether it's an officer or just an individual in the street, should have accountability for what they do. So but then it's kind of like police officers are reactors. We don't do the action first.
Yeah.
So, I don't really know what to say after that. It's like we react to whatever we're throwing at. So we only can know so much, so little, and then we have to react from what we know. So
I'm not sure if this is too in-depth of a question, but when things do happen between the community and cops, what is the next step? Like, if the cop is in the wrong, how do you guys handle that within house? Like, is there a system as to where, because I know some people get paid leave and things like that. Like, how does it usually work in the cases that we've seen where an officer gets physical with the individual?
Right. So I only can speak for my department and how my department does things is, so basically you're sent home, of course everybody knows that. Then there's an investigation that is done in between your division. So your supervisor does an investigation, and then it's taken to another spectrum of our department where they do their own investigation. So it's like a non-biased type of thing, because most supervisors at that division know that individual.
Exactly.
So they take it outsourced, but it's still in the police department.
Yeah.
So then it goes through them. And then once it leaves them, it goes to someone that's even higher than them. So it goes to civilians, what we call people that are not police officers, and then police officers. And it's on the board. They speak about it. They go through every little detail, what happened prior to that officer's history of any type of encounter with individuals. And it just goes down that list. And you check off the boxes. And basically from there, you either go to a board of rights. It's basically kind of like a court system that we have in the police department. Or you're just fired.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, I've got to know. So when it comes to the George Floyd case and that cop who murdered him, essentially, had a history of all these different things that he's done in the past. How many chances would an officer essentially get before it's like, okay, it's enough is enough?
Well, like I said before, I only can speak for my department. And if I'm not mistaken, that department is very small.
Got it.
So they might have a totally different disciplinary actions that they do. They might have a different training, because every police department is different. That's why most of the time when stuff happens in two different departments, like say for instance like LAPD and sheriff, we won't intertwine that because we all have different training.
Got it.
Because of that. So it's like, okay, my department might see it as wrong, but that department might see it as right. So they might be trained to do what they did. You never know unless you actually work that department.
I don't think people know that the training might be different.
Yeah.
I think that essentially everybody thinks it's under the same
one little thing.
level.
Yeah.
I never knew that it was training for different departments.
Yeah, it's like not just training, but the way we fill out paperwork, the way that we freaking broadcast on the radio is totally different. Like you know, for example, sheriff has 10-4 and 10 codes. We don't do that.
Okay.
So it's just like little things that this department has and this department doesn't.
Got it.
So you have to base it off of what that department has.
Got it.
I'm not saying who was right, who was wrong, but you have to go based off of the facts. You know, the facts was they were taught to do that. The facts were this is all they were taught. Then, because it's like for school, if you're only taught this math equation, that's what you're going to use to solve the problem, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it basically comes down to.
Got it. I never knew that. Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your take on the community wanting to defund the police? I know we talked a little bit earlier about it. Just go into depth as to how you feel about that.
Well, one, you have to, every individual who's saying defund the police, you have to look at what exactly that entails of defunding the police. Because if you okay, luckily you have a friend that's a police officer, but if just the public took out the time to ask a police officer or a deputy or highway patrol what exactly do they do in the day-to-day basis, you will understand that defunding comes with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
For example, like I was telling you earlier, not too long ago I had to knock on someone's door and tell them that their loved one is deceased. Do you want to go to somebody's house and knock on their door and know the right words to say and the way to comfort them? I wear a badge and gun. I'm not here to But I have to. If I have to wear that hat that day, that's what I have to do because that's what my job entails.
So defunding just comes with a lot of different things that will be gone if that comes to into play.
Right. It's like the little small things, like, you know, when you're a kid and your parents like, I'm gonna call the police if you act up. Like, okay, but when that kid really needs the police, you were fighting for defunding. So when the kid actually needs it, because like, not to go into like some of the stuff that I've gone through as a police officer, but I've come encounter with so many kids that needed the police but didn't call because their parents are so not for the police.
Yeah, against it.
So,
do you think that we need a shift in mindset when it comes to, or definitely within the Black community, because we have had a lot of different issues when it comes to police, obviously. I feel like maybe we do need more Black police officers just so that it's a different mindset when it comes to, like, if we have our own as an officer, we might think of it differently, or we may not, because you know how you've said you've gotten people tell you you're a sellout and things like that. I know that's hard to eat a lot of the times because it's like, I'm just like you, you know. I'm
just like you. I mean, I have feelings just like you. Shoot, I have cousins that look just like you.
Exactly.
I like, sometimes I tell people when I like, because I do traffic enforcement as well, where I do citations, and so people are like, man, you pulled me over because I was Black. I'm like, man, like, I know how it feels to be pulled over. I've been pulled over multiple times because I have a car that is known for getting pulled over. So I totally understand, but I'm not coming to you with that attitude. I'm literally coming to you. I'm educating you on why I pulled you over. I'm explaining exactly how to fix this ticket. I'm explaining how not to get pulled over. I'm explaining to you so you can't automatically assume that every cop is going to be the same.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if people just took out the time to maybe talk to an officer or talk to a deputy just for five minutes and ask why they do this and why they do that, it gives that gapping a little bit more closure. It's just a little bit closer, like, to understanding one another.
Yeah.
And once you understand one another and why this person moves the way that they move, then you have a better solution. So it's like, just ask the questions. Like, don't always come argumentative. Ask the question, try to get the knowledge, because they say knowledge is power. So the more you know, the more you understand why this person moved that way instead of that way. So.
Exactly. So do you think that there needs to be certain things into play when it comes to training for officers? Because there has been a gap where we've seen a lot of violence between Black people and brown people with the police. What is your take on that? Like, is it something we can change, or is it something that officers need to change? Where is the divide? You know what I'm saying?
I think, I'm only speaking from my personal experience, I think it's deeply rooted. It's kind of like, okay, one side doesn't like the police already. So when you come in contact with the police, you're kind of like, F the police, you have this macho attitude. And then also you might have officers who never really encountered hostility, but it's just hostility. It's not really like an action. It's just words, and they're kind of like flaring of their chest. Like, you know, certain things that I might be comfortable with that another officer is not comfortable with, you know? So I feel like the more people become comfortable with the two will intertwine better.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, for example, like, okay, if I'm in South LA and I pull somebody over on Imperial Highway in Compton, I'm gonna be more comfortable just because of my personality, and just because I just know how to talk to people. It's because I've been around people of different backgrounds, so I know how to talk to people. But if you have somebody that never really, I guess, sat down and had a conversation with somebody of brown skin or Black skin or whatever you want to be classified as, then you're not going to know how to handle the situation. Yeah. So I think that comes with time. You can't teach that in an academy. Yeah. You can't teach that in 6 months, and it just comes if you want it to come. I guess so. I guess to say, like.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for for Black young men and women who might also want to become officers in such a time as now?
I say do it.
Do it?
I say do it not only because you want to be a part of the change, but do it because it's a challenging job. So if you like challenge, you like to always challenge yourself and grow, this is like a job for you. And if you need help, I'm always, you can give them my contact information. Like, I'm always searching for people to come on the job, because it's kind of like, of course I want to see more people that look just like me. I have godchildren that want to see more officers that look like me. So it's like, the future wants to see it. So why not help be a part of that?
Yeah.
So I'm like, you have great benefits. I mean, if everybody knows, you always have a job, and so it's kind of, I mean, you have a job if you act right.
If you act accordingly.
Yeah, if you act accordingly, of course. But then it's kind of like, it's stability. I mean, yes, the job is rocky. Yes, you have downfalls. I mean, ups and downs. Like right now, defunding the police, you have the downside. But then, like, every day I go to work, I love it. Like, it's weird to say. Like, I work 12-hour days. I'm on my feet all the time.
And I feel like that's how it should be for a lot of people. I'm not sure, because I'm not obviously a police officer.
Right.
But sometimes I feel like the people who are officers, they come with a different attitude. Like, okay, I'm going to go in there and, excuse my language, but fuck some shit up just because. And not doing it for the people. You know what I'm saying? But we need people like you in that position.
Well, don't get me wrong. Like, if you push, like, I'm a person at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You're not going to sit here and pump me.
Exactly.
If I have to bark back a little bit to get you to understand, because sometimes that's all people understand, is you barking back at them, that's what I'm going to do. But if you come with me, calm attitude, calm demeanor, if you come with me, you know, making jokes, I'm going to make jokes back.
Yeah.
I am a reactor, like I told you earlier. I'm not going to come all like, I'm going to fuck some shit up. Like, that's not my motto. That's not how I get down. Mine is, I'm over here giving out stickers to little kids. I'm over here pushing wheelchairs across the street. But I will give you
a helpful citizen.
Exactly. But then I'll give you a ticket.
Exactly.
I'll give you a ticket in a second if you're over here speeding, because that's a part of doing my job. So I would say, don't get upset when officers are trying to do his or her job, because my job could be literally just giving out stickers, or my job could be getting rid of these bad guys in the community because it's making it hard for everybody else.
Yeah.
So it's like two different sides of what our job entails. Like I told you, we wear so many hats. It's just, what hat are we going to wear today?
Got it. Now, outside of work, what do you find joy in?
So like I told you before, I am a mentor. So I actually mentor with two programs. So it's the Riley Youth Foundation in Sherman Oaks, and then I have Operation Progress that's in South LA.
Awesome. I gotta ask you, I know we covered a lot, but overall, what type of legacy do you hope to leave?
One that I can be proud of.
Yeah.
Even on the good day and bad day, know that I gave it my all.
Yeah.
I know that no matter what, if another individual encountered me, they know that they got the best of me. And so that's why I go every situation. I try to give it my 100%. Some days I only have 70%, but I try to give the best of that 70%. And so that is the legacy that I want. Every day, I know that Officer James, when Officer James puts that uniform on, she goes from Renetia to Officer James. I want to be the best person that I could be, whether it's being the discipliner or being just there to hear somebody out, just to talk to somebody, freaking to tell them how to get to freaking Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. You know, just somewhere, like just little things that we have to do. I mean, that's what I'm going to do. That's the legacy that I want to build. So.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I felt like it was very important mostly for Black people specifically, and brown, to see that there is people like you out here. And it's not always bad, but we do need to come up with something that can bring us together. You know what I'm saying? Officers and just us civilians. Like, it's very important. And I feel like now is the time for that change to start to come into effect and kick in. So I appreciate you coming.
No worries. And also, too, like, say, like, if you know somebody that has ideas where they, like, want to pitch to mend that relationship between the community and the officers, you can always go to your city council meetings and pitch that to your city council. Like, okay, look, I want this, and that to happen so we can mend the relationship, because that's what city council is there for.
Got it.
It's to mend that relationship. So I would
gotta be more involved.
Exactly. You can't say we have these problems, but
you're not involved.
You're not doing anything about the problems.
You gotta put the work in.
Exactly. So
put the work in on both sides.
Both sides.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's continue to lead with light and love. I appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.